Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're going to be looking at ASP Isotopes, ticker symbol ASPI. And they are a company that is making some really interesting moves in the nuclear tech and the semiconductor spaces. They've got some pretty incredible technological advancements that are happening, but also some legal issues. And that's making investors kind of, well, nervous. So how do you as a listener make sense of all of this?
Yeah, it's really a head scratcher, isn't it? You've got on one hand this company that's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but then on the other hand, you've got these question marks kind of hanging over their heads. And I think that's what makes this such an interesting case study for investors.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's unpack all of this stuff. Let's start with the positives. ASPAP. I recently held this investor event in South Africa. And wow, did they showcase some pretty impressive advancements. Their quantum enrichment technology is really blowing past expectations. They're hitting an enrichment factor of 678. And for those who aren't familiar with all this, that basically means they're making the enrichment process way more efficient. And that has huge implications for things like nuclear energy and medical isotopes.
Absolutely. And I think the location here is key. South Africa has a long history in the nuclear field. And so ASP Isotopes is really strategically positioning themselves as a major player, not just in those industries, but in that specific region.
And it's not just the enrichment technology. Their Silicon-28 and Ytterbium-176 facilities are ahead of schedule, too. We could see commercial production from those as early as Q1 2025. Plus, they're anticipating their first carbon-14 feedstock shipment this month, which puts them on track for commercial production and sales in the first half of 2025. So that's a lot of potential revenue streams coming online really fast. So why is the stock down? On January 15th, it took a 16% hit, and it's been trending downwards ever since. Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Unfortunately, there is this shadow that's kind of looming over all of this good news. Multiple law firms are now investigating ASP Isotopes for potential securities fraud. And, these legal concerns are really spooking investors, which is completely understandable. Yes, it's a classic case of uncertainty kind of breeding fear in the market. Now, to be fair, the stock is still trading above its 52-week low of $1.76,
Right.
which it hit back in January 2024. But it's a far cry from its 52-week high of $9.33.
Yeah.
So we've got this weird disconnect. A company seemingly on the cusp of some major breakthroughs, but also potentially facing legal trouble.
Exactly. And it makes it really tricky for investors to evaluate. I mean, do you focus on the potential of the technology and the projected growth, or do you err on the side of caution because of this legal overhang? I mean, there's really no easy answer.
Okay, so let's dive into the financials a little bit here. Maybe that'll give us some more clues. Analysts are projecting some pretty significant revenue growth for ASP Isotopes. We're talking $24.3 million in 2025 and $41.8 million in 2026. Now, I know numbers can sometimes be a little bit dry, but stick with me here. This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, those are some really impressive projections. But it's crucial to note that right now, ASP Isotopes is actually operating at a loss. Their earnings per share, or EPS, for the past 12 months is negative 59 cents. What is promising, though, is that analysts are predicting that there will be a significant improvement there. They're forecasting an EPS of negative 12 cents in 2025, and even turning a profit with an EPS of 6 cents in 2026.
Okay, so what does all that tell us? I mean, it means that if those projections actually hold true, ASP Isotopes is on a trajectory towards profitability.
Yeah.
But what are the chances that those projections will actually pan out? I mean, that's the real gamble here, isn't it?
Precisely. And that's why we really need to look beyond just the raw numbers. We need to consider all the factors that could potentially influence those projections. For instance, how quickly can ASP Isotopes scale up production? Will they face any unexpected regulatory hurdles? And of course, how will these legal issues ultimately play out?
Right, those legal battles are like a huge wild card. They could end up being just a minor setback,
Hmm.
or they could completely derail the entire company. And speaking of risk, let's talk about volatility. ASP Isotopes is known for some pretty wild price swings. We're talking about a stock with a beta of 3.30s.
Yeah, that high beta really highlights the uncertainty that's surrounding the company. It tells you that the market is still trying to figure out what to make of ASP Isotopes. On one hand, they're doing some really groundbreaking stuff, but on the other hand, there are these serious concerns. And until those concerns are really addressed, that volatility is likely to persist.
So for investors, this means that ASP Isotopes is potentially both a gold mine and a minefield. So how do you navigate that?
Well, one tool that can be really helpful in situations like this is technical analysis. Things like moving averages and technical indicators. Those can give you a sense of the stock's momentum and can help you identify potential entry and exit points. Of course, no technical indicator is perfect, but they can offer some really valuable insights.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it goes without saying, but you always need to factor in your own risk tolerance and your investment horizon. If you're someone who kind of panics at the first sign of a dip, ASP Isotopes might not be the best fit for you. But if you're comfortable with maybe a little bit more risk and you have a longer-term outlook, well, then this could be a very intriguing opportunity.
I couldn't agree more. And I want to emphasize something for all of our listeners here. No matter how promising a company seems, thorough due diligence is absolutely essential. Don't just jump in based on hype or headlines. You really need to dig into their financials, understand their technology, and in this case, very closely follow those legal proceedings.
So to summarize, ASP Isotopes is a company with exciting potential, but it's also got some serious question marks. It's a very high-stakes situation, but often that's where the biggest opportunities lie.
It's a really good reminder that investing is as much about managing risk as it is about chasing returns. And with a company like ASP Isotopes, that risk management piece is absolutely critical.
Yeah. So it all boils down to this. Is ASPI a gamble or a potential game changer? I'm curious. What stands out to you as like the biggest factor to watch here?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it really comes back to those legal challenges. If ASPI can clear their name and kind of put those concerns to rest, it could really be a major catalyst for the stock. On the flip side, if things go south legally, it could have like a devastating impact.
Yeah, it's almost like there's two parallel narratives playing out here. You've got this incredible story of innovation and growth, and then you've got this legal drama that's unfolding kind of in the background. It's fascinating and a little nerve-wracking at the same time.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's so important for investors to stay informed. This isn't a set it and forget it kind of investment. You really need to keep your finger on the pulse and be prepared to kind of adjust your strategy as the situation evolves.
Speaking of staying informed, ASP Go. I did respond to that short seller report, which initially kind of sparked the investigations. They called all the allegations baseless and misleading. But the market clearly isn't fully convinced yet.
Right, and that skepticism is reflected in the stock price. Investors are essentially waiting for more concrete evidence to support ASPI's claims. They want to see those legal issues resolved before they really fully buy into the growth story.
So how should investors approach a situation like this, where you have a company that seems to be firing on all cylinders operationally, but has this big question mark hanging over its head?
Well, first and foremost, don't panic. It's easy to get swept up in all the emotion in the market, especially when a stock is as volatile as ASPI. But remember, volatility creates opportunity. For investors that have a high risk tolerance and a long-term view, this could be a chance to buy into a potentially disruptive company at a discounted price.
That's a really important point. Sometimes when a stock is taking a beating, it can be tempting to just cut your losses and run. But if you believe in the underlying fundamentals of the company, those dips can actually be really good buying opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, that doesn't mean you should just throw all caution to the wind. As we've been discussing, thorough due diligence is absolutely crucial. You need to understand the risks involved and be prepared for the possibility that things might not go your way.
So for our listeners that are considering adding ASPI to their portfolio, what's the key takeaway here?
Well, the key takeaway is this. ASTI is a high-risk, high-reward proposition. There's potential for significant upside, but there's also a very real possibility of downside risk. If you're going to invest, go in with your eyes wide open, do your homework, and don't overextend yourself.
And remember, diversification is your friend. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when that basket is a very volatile stock like ASPI. Spread your risk across multiple investments. That way, even if one doesn't pan out, you're not putting your entire portfolio in jeopardy.
Absolutely. And beyond just diversification, it's really important to have a clear investment thesis. Why are you investing in ASPI? What do you believe in about the company? And what are your expectations for the future? Having a well-defined thesis will really help you make those more rational decisions, even when the market gets turbulent.
I think that's great advice for any investor, regardless of what stocks they're looking at.
Yeah.
Know why you're investing, what your goals are, and what your risk tolerance is. That'll help you stay grounded and avoid making those impulsive decisions that are based on fear or greed.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Emotions can be your worst enemy in the market. Having a clear strategy, And sticking to it, even when things get bumpy, that is really the key to long-term success.
So let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the broader implications of what ASPI is doing. We focused a lot on the financials and the legal issues, but what about the technology itself? What makes their advancement so significant?
Well, we touched on it earlier, but their quantum enrichment technology really has the potential to be truly disruptive. Imagine a world where we can enrich uranium and other isotopes far more efficiently, with significantly less waste. That's the kind of game changer that ASPI is really working towards.
And it's not just about efficiency. This technology could have ripple effects across multiple industries. We're talking about potential breakthroughs in nuclear energy, medical isotopes, even things like quantum computing and advanced materials science.
Exactly. ASPI is operating at the cutting edge of several fields that are only going to become more important in the years to come. And that's what makes this company so compelling. They're not just solving today's problems, they're really shaping the future.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new industry. And ASPI is right at the forefront. But as with any new frontier, there are bound to be challenges, setbacks, and a healthy dose of volatility.
That's the nature of innovation. It's rarely a smooth ride. There will be bumps along the way. But for those investors who can kind of stomach the ups and downs, the rewards could be substantial.
So for our listeners who are still trying to decide whether ASPI is right for them, what's the one thing that you would tell them to consider?
I would tell them to think about their investment timeline. Are you looking for those short-term gains? Or are you willing to ride out the volatility and potentially reap the rewards of a long-term investment if you're in it for the long haul? And you believe in the transformative potential of what ASPI is doing, then this might be a stock worth considering.
That's a really insightful perspective. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day fluctuations of the market. But ultimately, successful investing is about having that vision for the future and being patient enough to really see it through.
And with a company like ASPI, that vision for the future is particularly compelling. They're not just building a business, they're building a new technological paradigm.
I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. ASPI is a company with a really bold vision and the technology to back it up. But they're also facing some significant challenges, both legally and in terms of market perception. Whether they ultimately succeed or fail remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, it's going to be a very exciting ride.
And that's what makes investing so fascinating. It's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about stories. It's about innovation, about people trying to change the world. And sometimes those stories have the potential to change your portfolio as well.
So where does all of this leave you, the listener? We've gone through this groundbreaking technology, these impressive growth projections, and also these very real legal issues. So what do you think about ASP Isotopes? Is this something that you would even consider for your own portfolio?
Well, I think it really comes down to, your individual risk tolerance and also your investment goals. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. But you know what I hope our listeners will take away from this? Is that even in a situation that's as complex as this one, knowledge is power. By understanding the company and understanding the industry and understanding all of the risks that are involved, you can make much more informed decisions.
And that's really what this show is all about, right? Investing Talk Podcast. We want to equip you as the listener with the information and the insights that you need to navigate this ever-changing world of investing. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we believe that everyone can benefit from a deeper understanding of the markets and also the forces that really drive them.
Absolutely. And remember, investing isn't just about picking stocks. It's about planning for your future. Whether you're saving for retirement or a down payment on a house or your kids' education, having a solid investment strategy is crucial.
I totally agree. So if you're looking for a show that cuts through all the noise and delivers actionable investment advice, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join us every single week as we explore this fascinating world of investing together.
And don't forget to share this episode with your friends, your family, or anyone who might be interested in learning more about ASP Isotopes or about the exciting opportunities and challenges that are in the nuclear tech and semiconductor industries.
We always love hearing from you, our listeners, so leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Is ASP Isotopes a buy? Is it a hold? Or is it a pass? We want to hear from you, your perspective. Until next time, happy investing.